go?
Good.
All right, man. Valor Magazine sitting down with Jeff Kyle, the co-owner of 5TC Solutions and part of the research and development team for United States Tactical. I really appreciate you sitting down with us today, man.
Well, I appreciate you having me out.
So tell me, why did you join the military service?
I guess from a young age, when a lot of kids were dressing up in cowboy hats and feathers and stuff like that, me and my brother were playing, soldier out in the woods, down in the creek, BB gun wars, a lot of trips to the ER with BBs stuck in our face, things like that. And it was just something that we always knew that was what we wanted to do. A lot of the guys that I grew up around, their dads were Vietnam vets, and I always really looked up to them and respected them. Of course, watching movies, always wanted to be the badass on TV, just like they were in the movies. And, it was kind of a no-brainer on my end. I knew right away that that's what I was going to do. Didn't know exactly what, but I knew, that's what I was going to do at some point.
So tell me why you picked the branch of service you did, and which branch did you choose?
I didn't know there was any other service out there besides the Marine Corps. No. I guess the main reason, there's a few reasons. Every time I saw a Marine, especially in their blues, you can pick out a Marine from a mile away. Not because they've got crayon on their face or anything like that, like everybody jokes, but there's a way that they hold themselves, a way that they present themselves, and I respected that. And one of my best friends when I was growing up, his dad was a recon Marine, and he was like a god to me. I mean, he was just an all-around badass, and I respected him, and I wanted to be just like him and do what he did. And so that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back on what route I went.
So everybody always wants to hear the stories about boot camp. Tell me a little bit about yours and your experiences.
So boot camp, I guess I was kind of fortunate. I didn't go in until I was 21. So I lived a little bit of life on my own, kind of grew up a little bit. Don't know that when I was 17, 18 years old, if I would have been a good candidate for boot camp. I had a pretty good mouth on me, and, a little bit of rebellion, or quite a bit of rebellion. They would have straightened me out, no problem. But, for me, myself, I probably wasn't quite there. So I went out and worked and, did my own thing for a while. My brother had gone in the year before. He went to the Navy. And so he told me, he said, it's not going to be anything like Navy boot camp. Navy boot camp's like Boy Scouts. He said, it's nothing, nothing like that. But, I talked to a lot of the old guys that had been through it, and, they gave me a heads up on what to expect. They told me you don't want to be number one, but you don't want to be number 20 or whatever, the end of the class. Just go through there, get your shit done, and do you, be on time, be ready, and rock with it. So, that's kind of the attitude I went in there with. Growing up, my dad was real hard on us. So people always thought that my dad was in the military. He never was. But he had that presence about him that, everybody thought that he was, and he kind of raised us that way. When I got to boot camp, it wasn't just a big culture shock. I wasn't in the best of shape, so that was kind of a shock. I sucked at life for a while, but, it didn't take long to pick up and roll on. But I tried to stay pretty silent, especially with another sibling being in the military and sending letters, having his higher-ups send letters and stuff like that. Of course, you get jacked with quite a bit because of that. And so I tried to stay kind of middle of the road as possible. High PFT, 300 PFT, no problem. Expert on the rifle range, no big deal. Grew up shooting, things like that. So it wasn't that. Now, of course, the training, that was rough. I'd never been through anything like that. There's really no way that you can prepare yourself mentally for that. Physically, yeah, you can do it, but mentally it was a little bit of a shock, but looking back on it, it was a great time. I made some great friends, and actually moved on throughout the rest of my career with some of the guys that I was in boot camp with. Crazy enough, I kind of made some pretty good relationship with some of my DIs too. They ended up, a couple of them showed up to my unit after I got to the fleet, and which that was kind of scary at first. Definitely didn't want to see them again, but they showed up. It was a really good experience. Hated life for a while, but looking back, it was one of the best things that I could have ever done.
So fast forward to fleet time in the Marine Corps. Did you ever deploy overseas during OIF or OEF?
I did. In 2003, we were deployed to Bahrain. We were kind of a riverine boat operations type unit. That was when they were getting hit by a lot of the pirates, things like that. So they put us on civilian ships, in civilian clothes, things like that, to kind of blend in. We worked a lot with the Navy in their Seahawks, traveling around, checking out the waterways, providing aerial support, things like that. I was actually, we came in off of a ship, off of one trip out and coming back, and we needed the Navy fleet needed one of their subs out, and it was in Greece, and all the battle groups were already over in the Gulf, so they needed somebody to give support to them. So they called my team out. We went out, flew into Greece, boarded the sub, and rowed it in to the Gulf. Which that was a pretty wild experience. I don't know how the submariners do it, living in a freaking tube like that for as long as they do underwater. I banged my head on many walls and many pipes, and hated the Navy, hated the guys on the sub, just because you're living that close to those guys 24/7 and being that far underwater, not seeing any daylight. But we rode the sub in whenever we would get to some of the canals are too shallow to stay submerged, so we'd have to go topside, and we'd set up our gun positions on topside and ride them through, in the middle of the night. We actually got tracked by a bunch of tangos on either side of us, nice little blacked out Toyota pickups with guns, and so that was kind of fun, sitting in a Coke bottle in the middle of a river with nowhere to go. But that was an experience. 2005, I went to Africa with my unit. We went over there to train up the Ugandans and Tanzanians and help them with some of the warlord uprisings that were going on at the time. And then 2007, then I deployed again with my follow-on unit, and we were in Iraq for 8 months.
During your deployments overseas, did you feel any pressure? Did you feel any stress, fog of war, anything like that?
Oh, definitely. Of course there was stress, especially on the first deployment. You train all this time to do that, but you never know how you're going to feel once you get there, and once you start hearing the rounds going off, or once you have to pull that trigger in real life. So there was a lot of stress going into it, but preparing myself, we did a lot of prep mentally, just to, it was, especially me and my brother, before every deployment we'd get together and basically say goodbye, because we knew that one of us may not be coming back. So, we said our goodbyes, or see you laters or whatever, and prepared ourselves mentally. I was fully willing to, to not come home or come home in a box. That helped me out quite a bit, but it was definitely hairy. Like I said, you never know how you're going to react. It was one of the scariest times of my life and one of the best times of my life.
Many people don't understand, but try to explain some of the bonds that were formed with some of your fellow Marines while you were over there in combat.
Everybody grows up, has friends, they stay in touch with their friends, and they like to think that no matter what, that if something happens, their friends will be there. And, I've got friends like that, but they don't hold a candle to the guys that I've been downrange with. Whenever you get into a situation like that where, you know that you're gonna die or one of them's gonna die, that puts a whole different aspect on life and brotherhood. And, you they know that their buddy's gonna do whatever it takes to make sure they come home and vice versa. And whenever you have that aspect in life with a friend, a teammate, or whatever, there's no comparison. I don't even have as close of a relationship with my blood family as I do with the guys that I went down range with. You know, it's a whole different kind of relationship. You know, I mean, it's any of us can pick up the phone, 2 in the morning and give a shout. Doesn't matter where they're at in the world or in the States. They know that somebody's going to be there, and it's hard to put into words, the relationship that you have, that, so people understand it. But to know that no matter what, if you're in trouble, that you're going to have a team of guys show up on your doorstep or wherever you're at. Even if you got a flat tire on the side of the road, one of your brothers is going to show up just out of nowhere, maybe from 3 states away, to help you, get home. So that's, the bond is, huge.
While you were overseas during your deployments, do you recall any sort of particular humorous event, or maybe some pranks you would pull on some other guys, or vice versa?
Oh yeah, whenever, I guess the civilian world, the civilian populace thinks that we're a bunch of sadistic, crazy individuals just because of they see videos of us doing stupid stuff overseas, or acting the way we do when we get home, when we're around our buddies. And that's how we deal with what we had to put up with. You have to put humor into everything, or you're just gonna eat away inside. Whenever we deployed, especially when I was with Recon, we wore, which I hated, we wore the flight suits. And whenever you gotta go, you gotta go. And there's no flaps on those flight suits. There's no just undoing your trousers and dropping trowel. I remember we were out on a patrol. We were in our vehicles, and we were doing an IED search out in the middle of nowhere. And one of our gunners, he said, guys, I'm about to fill this truck up if we don't stop. And we had to stop in the middle of nowhere, and he had to get out, and he was shucking his clothes on the way out, and he was butt naked running across the desert, trying to find somewhere to post up and do his business. He actually put a sock over his junk so he wouldn't get it in the sand. So, just stupid stuff like that. And of course, we're sitting up on the trucks videoing him, and posting it out everywhere. So, it's just stupid stuff like that we would do, locking each other in the porta shitters or whatever, making Tabasco bombs and throwing them in each other's trucks, just ridiculous stuff, stuff that civilians they'd probably cry, and that just makes us laugh. I can remember one time we got called out to assist an infantry unit. We rolled up to their fob, and of course they were shitting in bags at the time. I had to go, so I went, sat on the can. Of course, I'm in my flight suit, so I got everything off, got my kit, my helmet laying next to me, and we were there to help them because they were getting rocketed at the same time every day, and they couldn't ever find the guys, so we were going out to hunt them down. I got sat down and was doing my business, and about that time the alarms went off and you could hear them coming through the air. Like, well, I don't know what else to do. I'm not done, so I just picked up my helmet, put my helmet on, and I just, if it happens, it happens. So that was probably the quickest shit I've ever taken in my life. And of course, all my buddies, were laughing and carrying on about it.
So fast forward to the last day you put on a Marine Corps uniform. Do you remember it?
I do. That was, it was kind of a bittersweet moment. Whenever we got back from my last deployment in 07, then my time was up in 08, in January of 08. So I just had a couple months to finish up, and making the decision to not stay in. That was the hardest decision that I've ever made in my life. I felt like I was getting a divorce. I felt like I was leaving my family, and that was tough. I knew that chapter in my life needed to be over, and I knew I needed to, start a new chapter. And, move on with life and, experience other things, have a family, things like that. So, having kids, having a wife definitely made it easier a little bit, but, it was, and still to this day, I mean, it was always wondering, should I, would I? So, but, I love what I do now, and, I wouldn't change anything.
What did you do in the days and the weeks after you were done? Did you work? Did you go to school? Anything like that?
I went to work pretty quick after I got back. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. I went through the process. I was going to be a DPS officer. Failed the hearing exam, so couldn't go through that. So I just went to work for a gun shop, dealing guns and things like that. That was pretty difficult, having to deal with the public. Doing something like that every day, it was a little different, especially being right home. It was, looking back, I probably should have done things a little different. I didn't take any time, just tried to get right in it, which it kind of failed. I kind of failed at life for a while. I sucked at life for sure. I ended up having them leave and move away. Moved up to Oklahoma for a little while out on a ranch, and was just out there by myself, away from everything, kind of decompress. So that was the first year of my marriage. I didn't even see my wife for basically the first year of my marriage, because I knew that if I stuck around, and she knew that if I stuck around, that it wouldn't be another year. So I moved away and kind of, I thought, got my head on straight, which, looking back, it took a lot more than a year. But I did that for a while. One of my teammates from recon, we got together and we started a training company, just doing little trainings here and there for different people. We did some law enforcement officers from time to time. And then we teamed up with a couple former Green Berets and just kind of grew the company as we went along. And then now, working where I do now, I took everything, all the gear that we used in country, all the gear that we trained with, things like that. I took what worked and tried to make it better, and I took what sucked and tried to make it awesome. And tried to, I designed gear for the guys that use it, not for the everyday guy. I mean, everyday guys can buy it all day long, but where I'm focusing is the guys that need it, that really use it day in, day out. That's helped me get back on track, and it something that I know, and staying within the community, that the community of the brotherhood, because most of the guys in the law enforcement community, they're former door kickers too. So they were, a lot of them we were downrange with, whether they were contracting or in the military with us. So, it's one big, happy, dysfunctional family. So that helps me, kind of stay on track.
I'm going to go back on something you said real quick, and I think it's important for people to hear. Do you think it's important for guys that are coming back from deployments or separating from the military to just take that time, not necessarily jump out into the real world so quick, maybe take the time and sort of cool down and try to find yourself almost before you try to get back into real life? You think that's important?
Oh, 100%, because like I did, I just jumped right into it, and I failed. And I know that if I'd have taken some time and, like you said, find yourself, if I'd have found me and had a game plan in place, I didn't do my mission prep. I just got out and freaking ran through the door, and it didn't work. And I sucked at life, sucked at my marriage, sucked at work. It wasn't a good situation at all. But if I'd have taken the time, and I'm sure things are a little different now, because they've, the military evolves with each deployment and each guy that gets out. And I think they're doing a lot better prepping the guys before they get out, before they exit. Which back then it was just, hey, thank you, see you later. And you were off on your own. You had no game plan, and so that was what I ran into. And luckily I had a good support system, and that, to me, that's the biggest thing. Whether you got a game plan or not, you got to surround yourself by people that support you and will have your back no matter what. And luckily I had that with my family, and of course all my brothers that I served with, we stayed in touch, and they kind of kept me on track, or tried to keep me on track. But yeah, that taking the time when they get out, I don't care if you just get out, get out like here. I mean, out in the wide open. There's nothing like this that's going to clear your head more. Me, I'd go out to the mountains in Colorado, just get out and not necessarily hunt, but just watch nature. And that really, kind of put me at ease and settled me down a little bit.
After you got out of the Marine Corps, did you join any veterans organizations, anything like that?
Yeah, so whenever I got out, me and my brother got out about the same time. He got out a little bit after I did, and he saw how both of us were sucking at life and how all of our brothers were doing the same thing. Because like in the military, when we're expected to be in a certain shape, especially when you're with these small specialized units. You have to be heads above the rest. You got to be better than everybody else. And when we get out, we let life take a hold of us, and we don't take the time to to stay in that shape. Because when we're in great shape physically, we're in great shape mentally. Because that prepares us to do what we do. Well, when we get out, we don't, we let all that go, and that goes back to taking that time to prep yourself. And so he started a foundation, a veteran foundation, that got guys back in the gym, or if they were disabled, got gym equipment to them, to their house, got them, personal trainers, things like that. And he got me back in the gym, and we got to working out and everything, and saw how much better we were doing. And so I got involved with that, of course, on the silent side, because he was the big face of it. And then, after he was gone, then, I was, what I say, voluntold to kind of step up and be in his footsteps and carry that on. And then now, my family, we have another nonprofit as well. It's a veteran and first responders. So we help across the board, because it's the first responders that take care of home while we're overseas. A lot of the guys are vets anyway. So, in our minds, first responders are just as important as the veterans downrange. So we take care of them. We're kind of a middleman, so we don't have one certain thing that we do for a vet or a first responder. We kind of put them in touch with, the different organizations that, that can help them with whatever they need, and we'll fund it. And then, of course, getting involved with Pipe Hitters Union. It's an apparel company. It was started by some veterans, and they do so much for the veteran and law enforcement community. Whenever something big happens, they're one of the first ones to donate a bunch of money and help out and things like that. So I'm involved with so many different organizations, nonprofits, the apparel company, things like that, because we have to continue on with the brotherhood, and we have to continue to help these guys, and even if it's a civilian run organization, that, to me, that's really important, because we need to bring the veteran community together with the civilian community, because there's always been that distinct wall between the two. The veteran community didn't trust the civilian community because they've never been downrange with us. They didn't understand what we went through, and we always thought, they just, it's pity. Well, that's not what it's about. And then the other side, they didn't understand us, so they didn't know how to help. They didn't know what to do. So, getting involved with these organizations and bringing the two sides together, that's what we try to do every day.
Tell me a little bit about what you're doing today. What do you have your hand in these days?
I need more hands, but my real job, my day-to-day job is I work for a company. The parent company is called MCO Supply, and then there's different branches under that umbrella. My baby is United States Tactical. So I was brought on to start this line of tactical gear, webbing gear, things like that for the consumer, for the end user, for the guy that is going through the doors and things like that. So I take everything that I learned back in the military, the gear that we use, things like that, and I simplify it, make it lighter, and just as strong, if not stronger, and then try to get it out. And I work closely with a lot of PDs, a lot of military units. Got some stuff overseas, things like that. So I get with the guys that use it and get their ideas on what they need, what they want, and build it for them. So I do a lot of custom stuff for them. My second job is with the training company with 5TC Solutions, and we travel around, because the military spent a lot of money on the four of us to learn what we learned and to know what we know. So it'd be pretty selfish of us to keep all that and not share it with anybody that wants to learn, and especially with this day and age. We travel around a lot and help people. We don't teach people how to be operators. I mean, there's nothing about that. And we don't teach people how to be an expert at anything or advanced. To us, there's no such thing as advanced. When you put on a course and it's an advanced course, there's really nothing advanced about it. It's just being able to operate or perform the basic fundamentals under pressure. So that's our philosophy. It's brilliance at the basics, and so that's what we teach. We travel around a lot doing that. And then with the nonprofits that I work real close with, American Valor, that's our nonprofit that we raise a lot of money for other foundations. I'm involved with 22 Kill. I'm involved with Guardian for Heroes, Mission 22. I could go on and on about all the ones that I'm involved with, and then doing things with Pipe Hitters Union. So I stay pretty busy all the time.
Jeff, do you attribute any of your professional successes to your military training, military experiences?
Oh, definitely. I like to think that I like to give my parents a lot of props for, how I turned out. They definitely gave me a good foundation, but I definitely, attribute the military to making me who I am. Every day when I go into work, I've got a game plan. And I think before the military, it was just, off the seat of my pants, just whatever happens, happens. And then also when something doesn't happen right, then, I don't get all butthurt about it. Just fix it, just roll on. So it's taught me to think outside the box and not get tunnel vision and get sucked into something, being able to multitask, and keep things going on all aspects. So yeah, definitely, the military honed me to who I am. I guess made me respect myself, and gave me the respect for others too, to be able to succeed, I guess, without looking down on somebody or without judging somebody for who they are or anything,
Who are the most influential people in your life right now?
My parents are definitely influential, for sure. Dealing with what they've dealt with for so many years, and then still getting up every day and running the foundation and, making appearances everywhere and doing what they do and not losing their minds, and not feeling sorry for themselves. So, I look up to them a lot and, try to emulate what they do. My brother, for sure, he helped me tremendously to be who I am and to follow the path that I'm on right now. So, even though he's not around, I can still hear him in my freaking head, So anytime I screw up or anytime I start feeling sorry for myself, I can hear him, chiming in saying, something stupid. But my business partner too. He's not only my business partner, but he's probably the closest thing that I have to a brother now, John Wayne Walding. That guy's gone through so much in his life, and gets up every morning and just nails it, and he's pulled me out of so many rabbit holes in my lifetime that I could never repay for what he does for me. And he continues to kick ass every day, and be who he is and help others, and just continue on to freaking be awesome in life.
Jeff, tell me some advice that you would give to military personnel who are transitioning out of the military. How are they going to make success of their life by using the experiences and the training they have?
My biggest advice is have a game plan, but don't have it set in stone. Be flexible, because civilian life is the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. I would much rather be getting shot at right now than have to have a regular job and deal with people on a daily basis. That's not who we are. That's not in our DNA. And having to overcome that's been big. But that's where the military training comes into play. Take everything that you learned in the military, take that adversity that you learned and put it into your civilian life. Have a game plan every day. Know exactly what you want to do, know exactly who you want to be. And don't feel sorry for yourself. Don't go around looking for pity. When we're in the military, we always had our brothers to fall back on. You still got those brothers to fall back on. Fall on them. Reach out to them all the time. They say there's no such thing as a stupid question. Well, there's not. You got to ask questions. You got to get out there and make something of yourself, and you got to be awesome. Because in the military we were awesome. Well, that you got to do that tenfold in civilian life. You got to get out there, suck up that boo-boo lip, and just roll on and be awesome at life every day. And never look back, never wish that you could have changed something. Don't live in the past. Like the way I look at it is, I served my country, I served it well, I'm proud of it. I served my brothers, but I can only serve that small group, the guys that I was with every day. Where now I can serve everybody. So my bandwidth has grown. So I've made more contacts and am able to reach out to more people, more individuals, either on the law enforcement side, first responder side, or the veteran side, and reach out to them and their families instead of just being stuck to that one little group. So I can reach out and get to more people and use their Rolodexes and their assistance and their mentalities and everything that they have to offer, whether they're civilian or veterans, and just you gotta get out there and put yourself in those situations. You can't just hold back. You gotta go through that door. You gotta kick it in and run.